Hi, everybody. It's Carol, April 1st, Wednesday, broadcasting from my dining room. A couple of announcements, and then I wanted to talk about something. The first is, once again, to encourage your friends and other folks you know to use the Zoom application for visiting with one another and with the opportunities that we have for instance, coffee hour. It's truly an easy application. I send you a link, you click on the link, Zoom will download to your computer, and then you'll be either in a waiting room, in which case I can see that you're waiting and let you in, or you join the meeting right away. But it's a great way to see one another. And in this time of physical distance, I think it helps for us to remain together in spirit. So don't be afraid of Zoom. The second thing I wanted to put into your mind is that on Sunday we begin Holy Week. The 4 great days of Holy Week are Palm Sunday, Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, and of course Easter. We're obviously going to be doing these services and these commemorations in a different way this year, and I haven't gotten it all figured out yet. So please be patient with me. As I mentioned yesterday, you might go outside and find some sort of branch or twig or something that is green to represent palms and put it on your door or on a window ledge or somewhere that will help you remember Palm Sunday. And then Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and into Easter is all considered one liturgy. So I encourage you to set aside time on those 3 days so that you can step more fully into the mystery of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. Finally, I would ask that you share on your Facebook page, if you have one, the videos that I make here. As I said yesterday, it's a subtle form of evangelism. And if you post it on your Facebook page or just share it, we'll get a wider reach. So today I've been thinking about paradox and about lamentation. Paradox is that idea of two seemingly contradictory truths, seemingly impossible to hold together, but actually being held together in a paradox. And in my mind, it is in some ways an apt description of the Christian faith. There are so many times where the teachings in the scripture and the theology of our faith are paradox. For instance, Jesus is fully human and fully divine. Not half human and half divine, but fully human and fully divine. That's a paradox. Jesus saying that by giving oneself up to die, one will have life. That's a paradox. Seems to me that Lamentations also is paradoxical because the characteristic of Lamentations is to be grieving for something, grieving deeply for something, and yet putting one's trust and hope in God. So a feeling of despair and yet a feeling of hope together. What's made me think about this is I learned today of 2 deaths not related to the COVID crisis. So there's a part of me that's experiencing the idea that life goes on even while we're in the midst of this crisis that seems to consume all of our energy and our mind. The one death I learned about was a sudden death of a spouse of a clergy person. someone who'd been sick maybe for a few days, not for very long, not COVID related, but just a sort of sudden death. And the second death was that of a young woman who appears to have died from an opioid overdose. Remember the opioid crisis? That seems to have fallen away in the midst of the COVID crisis. It's unknown whether this young woman planned to end her life, probably not, had issues with addiction and alcohol use and whatnot, but unfortunately had either an overdose or a bad mix of opioids or tainted opioids, and thereby has died. So there's a part of me that's lamenting today, not just lamenting the COVID crisis, but lamenting other death that I see around me. And it's really easy to become, in a sense, disoriented and despairing and confused, and wanting to cry out to God and asking why this is so. What is going on here? And it turns out that there is a form in the Bible that's called lament. There's a whole book of Lamentations. It's said that a third of the Psalms contain lamentation. And I need to sort of reassure myself that lamenting our current situation is not an unfaithful thing to do, especially when we consider exactly what the form of lamentation is. Let me speak more about that. I'm going to look at my notes here. Lamentation is grieving for the present situation, yet acting in the hopeful assurance that God will deliver and redeem. Lamentations is a disorientation of despair to a reorientation grounded in God's promises. Lamentation is a persistent cry for salvation to God, whose power to save in a situation of suffering and sin is hope that God hears and responds to crises of despair and will act now and in the future. Lamentations is grieving and an expression of trust in the character and power and the previous actions of God, but it's voicing the shadows of life. As I said today, I'm feeling those shadows of life. Let me read you one psalm and then another writing from a current or a contemporary theologian. This is Psalm 10. See if you can hear these cries of suffering and the trust that's being put in God. Why do you stand so far off, O Lord, and hide yourself in time of trouble? The wicked arrogantly persecute the poor, but they are trapped in the schemes they have devised. The wicked boast of their heart's desire. The covetous curse and revile the Lord. The wicked are so proud that they care not for God. Their only thought is, God does not matter. Their ways are devious at all times. Your judgments are far above out of their sight. They defy all their enemies. They say in their heart, I shall not be shaken. No harm shall happen to me ever. Their mouth is full of cursing, deceit, and oppression. Under their tongue are mischief and wrong. They lurk in ambush in public squares, and in secret places they murder the innocent. They spy out the helpless. They lie in wait like a lion in a covert. They lie in wait to seize upon the lowly. They seize the lowly and drag them away in their net. The innocent are broken and humbled before them. The helpless fall before their power. They say in their heart, God has forgotten. He hides his face. He will never notice. Rise up, O Lord. Lift up your hand, O God. Do not forget the afflicted. Why should the wicked revile God? Why should they say in their heart, you do not care? Surely you behold trouble and misery. You see it and take it into your own hand. The helpless commit themselves to you, for you are the helper of orphans. Break the power of the wicked and evil. Search out their wickedness until you find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The ungodly shall perish from the land. The Lord will hear the desire of the humble. You will strengthen their heart, and your ears shall hear, to give justice to the orphaned and oppressed, so that mere mortals may strike terror no more. This is written by Leonardo Boff. He was a liberation theologian concerned particularly with the persecution and the oppression of the poor in Central America. And listen how he laments. There are countless prophets of sacred causes that espouse the rights of the poor. Some are known, the vast majority are anonymous. They all share the impotence and helplessness of Jesus on the cross. They are asked to accept the most difficult assignment, to hope against hope, to love what does not seem to be present to them, and to believe in what they cannot see. They are asked to endure the worst plight a human being can experience, to die feeling abandoned by the God for whom they lived and sacrificed their lives. Still, they do not abandon God. They surrender themselves to God in complete confidence. In total inner emptiness, they cling to the nameless mystery that is infinitely beyond them. For this mysterious God holds the secret meaning of all their failed quests, of all the absurdities of history. To die like that is to share Jesus' death on the cross. It is to share his redeeming mystery, which will go on through history until the world reaches its end and fulfillment in the liberation of the last sinner who opens to God's mercifulness. Friends, in this time of COVID crisis, as we may or may not experience illness and death, or grieve those who have died before us, or find ourselves despairing in our minds and in our spirits, I want you to, as best you can, hang on to the mystery of faith in God. No one asks in the scripture, in Christian life, in the reading I just did, no one asks you to con yourself into belief or faith, but rather, as it says, in total inner emptiness, you can cling to the nameless mystery that is beyond our understanding at this time. That's where I am today. I hope this is of some comfort or solace to those of you who are struggling. I hope you will share it for others who are struggling. And I find it to be comforting, and I hope you do too. I'll plan to post again tomorrow. Say your prayers, wash your hands, stay well. Keep the faith, even when your faith is lamentation. Take care.